So one thing that I've remained adamant on for the better part of a month now is that I believed March would be huge for Alabama in terms of recruiting, and so far, less than 10 days into the month, it's been just that. Already you've gotten a commitment, several top prospects have come and viewed open practices, and on top of all of that, a 5-star wide receiver is raving about his experiences. But today, we need to talk about what Alabama is putting together today and through the weekend, where several of the nation's top athletes are flocking to Tuscaloosa to see what this new staff is all about, and we have got to break it down. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe Alabama is trending in a positive direction for several of these top prospects? And let me know who you would most like to see in the class. I can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below as those interactions are massive. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And before we fully dive into what to expect this weekend and some of the names you need to know about, I want to take a step back and briefly talk about a wide receiver we covered just this week, but a wide receiver who is raving about his visit. And that's none other than 5-star wide receiver, top 10 player in all of high school football, Caleb Cunningham, out the state of Mississippi. Now, if you remember, when we talked about Caleb Cunningham earlier this week, we talked about how he's the number 10 player in all of high school football, regardless of position, the number 2 wide receiver, and the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi, while standing 6'3" and 180 pounds. And make no mistake about it, his dominance is not just relegated to the football field, because he is a standout basketball athlete as well. We talked about how this is going to be a battle you need to be watching out for. Can Alabama lift him out the state of Mississippi? Because if you look, there are currently predictions inserted for both Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So it seems that this is a battle of getting him out of his home state. But based on the reviews and based on his experience, it seems that Alabama knocked it out of the park, because he loved his time viewing practices, looking at the team, looking at the facilities, and certainly with Coach Shepherd. And this is something we've talked about time and time again. Coach Shepherd was a home run hire if there was ever a home run hire. There's a reason why even Nick Saban was going after Coach Shepherd, because he is infectious. You see it in the practice footage, you see it whenever he does the interviews, and you hear it whenever the prospects that have gotten the opportunity to talk with him, whenever they talk about him. He seems like an infectious person, and it's easy to understand why wide receivers love playing for him. I loved hearing about his taker's mentality as opposed to a receiver's mentality. I'm very excited to see what that position group looks like, both in terms of production through this season, because he has been so productive with the wide receivers he has worked with, and in terms of recruiting, because I have no doubt we are looking at a rising star in the industry, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. So very excited to hear about Caleb Cunningham loving his visit, but now we need to talk about people who we hope love their visit as they are looking at the capstone today and through the weekend. And there are several big names that you have got to know about. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball, because with the previous staff, we would always start on the defensive side of the ball, but times have changed in Tuscaloosa. Looking at the offensive side, we start with none other than Juju Lewis, a 5-star quarterback and truly an intriguing athlete. Remember, Juju Lewis reclassified, and he is still a 5-star, which is incredible and only speaks to what an incredible athlete he is. As we currently sit here and talk, he ranks as the number 9 player in the nation per the 24/7 Sports Composite. And as always, I always use composite rankings because I think it tells the most complete story. He's number 9 in the composite, the number 2 quarterback in the nation, and the number 3 player in the state of Georgia, a state always loaded with talent, a state you hope you keep healthy recruiting pipelines to. But there are several players coming in from Georgia. It looks like those pipelines are alive and well, and I can't wait to see what that looks like. But Juju Lewis would be an absolute win. There are several different quarterbacks Alabama is pushing for in this class, but if you're able to flip Juju Lewis from USC, you would be over the moon. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive mind. We know what he's done with the quarterback position. We know what his offenses have looked like. That's why I'm never going to be surprised whenever offensive playmakers look at Kalen DeBoer, look at this opportunity, and say, yeah, that's something I'm interested in. So getting Juju Lewis on campus, in my opinion, that's massive. Remember, Kalen DeBoer was at his high school. They were having these conversations, and then Grubb and Huff moved on to the NFL. Nick Sheridan rapidly inserted himself into the equation, but This is going to be Juju Lewis's visit to see things as the chaos has officially calmed down. Now we are out of that storm. We are sailing through the night, smooth as can be, and I'm excited for him to see that version of Alabama. We're going to be looking forward to what this looks like. We move on to another dominant high school athlete on the offensive side of the ball out the state of Georgia, where we're talking about Travis Smith Jr., the wide receiver who stands 6'4" and is a top 200 player in all of high school football, coming in as the number 147 player in the nation, the number 14 wide receiver, and the number 20 player in the state of Georgia, which really goes to prove what I just talked about, why you want to maintain a pipeline in Georgia, in Alabama, in Louisiana, in Florida, in Texas. The fact that you're the number 20 player in your state, but you are the number 150 player in the nation is insane and only speaks to how much talent is located in some of these states. Travis Smith Jr. is a wide receiver that has taken several visits to Alabama now. If I'm not mistaken, this is his second under the new staff, and in my opinion, that's always a real positive. That's always a real positive whenever you have someone come on a quick turnaround. He was just there for the junior day in February, and now he is already back on campus. In my opinion, that means that Alabama is at least impressing him. And once again, not to beat a dead horse, I'm not shocked whenever wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks are interested in playing in this offense. Why wouldn't you be? Because they put up big numbers. So Travis Smith Jr. is someone we have absolutely got to watch. But the fact that you have a 5-star quarterback on campus, the fact that he now has a top wide receiver in the class coming on campus in the same visit, and by the way, if rumors are correct, Ryan Williams will be on campus as well. That's great for Juju Lewis. Now he gets to see, oh, there's someone who was going to be in my class who was probably going to be the number 1 player in the class of 2025. Let's be very honest here. Ryan Williams was going to finish out as the number 1 player in the class of 2025 had he not reclassified. Juju Lewis gets to look at that and say, now I get to visit Alabama where there's no chaos, everything is smooth sailing, and I get to see the wide receivers they currently have on campus. I get to see some that may be in the class, such as a Travis Smith Jr., and I get to talk to Ryan Williams. Can't wait to see what this looks like. As we move over to the defensive side of the ball, there are several top prospects that I'm really excited to get into, including one that I know is going to excite every Alabama fan watching this video, and that's none other than Zion Grady, who is taking his visit to see what this new staff is all about. And remember, one thing I've always talked about is there are a lot of people that were important to Zion Grady's recruitment process that are no longer at Alabama, but retaining Freddie Roach was massive, not only for Grady, but for several in-state prospects and defensive line prospects around the nation. That, in my opinion, was another home run hire by this staff, is retaining Freddie Roach. Zion Grady comes in as the number 44 player in the nation, the number 4 edge, and the number 4 player in the state of Alabama. And he has got real high upside. This is someone who was previously in Alabama's class before decommitting when Saban retired, but this new staff has done a good job in reestablishing that connection, and hopefully they can get Zion Grady back into the fold, but several top schools are chipping away at the very talented edge. And it makes sense. Whenever you turn on the film, there's so much to love about his game. Hopefully, this weekend reaffirms what he originally loved about Alabama and showed him this is still home. Can't wait to see how his connection with Womack gets established, how his connection with Roach gets furthered. It's going to be really interesting to check it out, as well as Christian Robinson, how he vibes with him. So we're going to be keeping our eye out on Zion Grady, but that's one that I know Alabama fans are over the moon that he's coming back in. Let's talk about a few more prospects. How about an Anquan Fegan, number 34 overall in the nation, the number 3 safety, and the number 2 player in the state of Alabama. And this would be an interesting win for Alabama, given that his brother was at one point a member of the Crimson Tide. But this is where I'm really interested in the battle for Fegans, because right now Auburn just got a prediction inserted in their favor for the very talented safety. Hitchler coming in from Wisconsin was a hire I've been really intrigued about because he did great things recruiting for Wisconsin. Cincinnati loved him as a secondary coach over there whenever they made their playoff run. Can he get a big-time win for Alabama? Well, he's going to have to chip away at an Auburn. He's going to have to try and chip away and establish that connection, but this is going to be a battle we need to keep our eye on. Going to 2 final defensive players before we get out of here. First and foremost, how about Antonio Coleman? Currently committed to Alabama, but I love anytime you have recruiting weekends where a commit comes on campus. Why? Because he is recruiting his peers. And to me, it hits different whenever you have fantastic recruiters in your class. Alabama has, I believe, some really ace recruiters on this staff. But we can go back and look at other classes where the guys in the class have done phenomenal jobs at also being ace recruiters. Richard Young did a great job recruiting several prospects for Alabama whenever he was a commit. And being that you get a commit back on campus who can almost be a liaison, I think that's massive. I always think that's really positive. Now, last but certainly not least, we need to talk about a 3-star linebacker from Georgia who I don't believe is going to be a 3-star for very long, and that's Luke Metz, who is coming in for a visit. And this is one Alabama fans keep your eye on, because Luke Metz is a prospect that I could see ending up in this Alabama class, and it would not shock me. If you turn on his film, there is a ton to love, and that's exactly why I say I would bet copious amounts of money that he does not end up as a 3-star, and I think there's a very good chance he ends up in Alabama's class. Hopefully this weekend goes well, he vibes with this new staff, and we can exit the weekend in a positive direction, because this is someone I would love to have in the class. But I can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments, let me know who you're most intrigued about, and let me know who you would most like to see join the class of 2025 for Alabama. That's it. See ya.